The three Venuses or divine figures here are some of the oldest yet found. They are often called the Great Goddess. It is important to think that the concept of the one and only male god is relatively new. Moses introduced us to Yahweh, an Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten to Aten, both names for one and only male god. However, for a large majority of the world, the one and only male god started with Jesus Christ and Muhammad, 1.5 millenniums later. Therefore, the man or woman who carved those statuettes or drew and painted ancient images on caves and rocks had a completely different concept of existence from what we have today, and it is practically impossible to imagine how were his or her sensations and sentiments. This is the Bereghad Rum. It was found in High Golan at the Syrian border, and it is made of volcanic rock, lava. There are still doubts about its authenticity. It is 3.5 centimeters tall and dates from 220,000 years BC. Here we have the Venus of Willendorf, found in Austria and made of limestone. It measures 11.1 centimeters and dates from 30 to 25,000 years BC. And this is the Venus of Lespoug, made from ivory and found in France. It is 14.7 centimeters tall and dates from 22,500 years BC. It is interesting to see the circles that prevail all round the images. The simplicity is striking. Why are curves erotic and attractive? When do they stop being erotic? Why? What is the secret of a curve? Here we have a drawing of the inside of a cave called El Castillo in North Spain. The paintings found here belong to the Upper Paleolithic, that is the period from 40,000 to 10,000 before present. In those days, paints were manufactured from combinations of minerals, burnt bone meal and charcoal mixed into medias of water, blood, animal, maybe human fats and tree sabs. The colors used were red and black. Later, yellow ochre was used. It is important to mention that paint is often found in burials together with food vessels and other ritual-like items, perhaps placed there to help the dead person during his or her journey to another life. This demonstrates how important visual expression has always been. These 4 images are placed on Gallery 64, quite away from the entrance, as you can see, which is where there was light and it would have been easier to paint. Why did they choose to paint where it was so difficult? No light and very high up in the ceilings. Perhaps the dotted image here could be a lunar count, but why the cross shape? Let's now look at the geometric images. What are they? Wings? Could the Paleolithic man fly? Those in Gallery 55 here resemble a sail. Then, if we look at those from Gallery 45, we see dots and a curved shape. They also painted images on top of images, as it happens now in modern times with graffiti, no respect for the artist. Gallery 31 is placed on a pointed corner. The shape of some caves is often altered for commercial reasons. Jury is difficult for experts, so sometimes we do not really know where exactly the paintings were in relationship to the actual cave. I enclose a picture of the rock formation inside the cave. Notice the shape of the rocks. They resemble a human vagina. Note also the sprayed hands, always left hand, sometimes with mutilated fingers. Those images exist all over the world, and they are very similar. The further back in time we go, the more similar these marks are all over the wall. Data from this early period in human prehistory is rather limited. Some of those earlier forms of rock art might be connected with the beginnings of writing. Dots, squares, rectangles, lines, what are they? Yet, again, let's look at the simplicity of these images. I remind you that I'm not an academic or an archaeologist in any way. I'm reading all these images from a painter's point of view. In here we have a drawing done by an Austrian philologist, Ernst Dopholfer, published in Vienna in 1957. He compares 48 signs of the undeciphered scripts of Indus Valley and Easter Island. On the first line we can see the Indus Valley one, and next to it the one of Easter Island. Both scripts have 100 basic signs each. The Indus Valley script consists of steatite, stamp seals and terracotta tablets, as well as some graffiti. It belongs to the people of the earliest occupation of the Indus River Valley, of what is now Pakistan and Western India by the Arabian Sea. This civilization predates 2500 BC. It appears that the cultures of Samaria, Egypt and Indus Valley existed simultaneously during 2500 to 2000 BC. Ruins of the ancient cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro indicate that these people built drainage systems that ran into brick-lined sewers that were connected to multiple-story brick homes. They also developed counting and this complex writing, only partially deciphered. They had a polytheistic belief system. They excavated canals to create large irrigation systems for their farms. Some scholars associate this culture with Vedic literature, which are orally transmitted texts of hymns of devotion to the gods, manuals of sacrifice for their worship, descriptions of epic wars between gods and gods and humans. The age and the origin of the Vedic texts are uncertain and ambiguous. They first appeared in written form in the late Bronze Age, but all scholars agree they make references to events that occurred hundreds, if not thousands, or perhaps tens of thousands of years earlier. The second script, called Rongorongo, comes from Easter Island, an island in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. Those wooden plates and lengthy sticks where it is written are 500 years old at the most. So, there is a 4,000-year gap between one script and the other. Scholars say that the previous knowledge could have been a derivative of a Chinese script or one of the many branches of the Brahmi script. Some other experts related to the Mayas and Popol Vuh, the ancient Bible of the Indians of Guatemala. In conclusion, we are comparing the unknown with the unknown. Yet, the similarity of the pictograms is extraordinary, and they both have about 100 signs. What we do know is that in 1862, people from Easter Island were taken to Peru as slaves, and with them the Rongorongo experts. They died leaving no clues to the meaning of the plates and sticks. 11 years later, the Catholic Bishop of Tahiti, Reverend Hausen, made a list of meanings with the help of natives from the island. Yet, experts are not very convinced of its accuracy. The explicit sexual references of some of the images most probably collided with the puritanical beliefs of the Catholic priests. I will read later an example of this. I should also say that as a painter I have very strong doubts about the authenticity of written history. Architecture, sculpture and painting, as well as poetry and literature, are the only forms of human history which I choose to trust. There is a broken seal of a unicorn, unfortunately I do not have an image of it, with this inscription that tells the parable of the elephant in the dark. The narrator of the parable was probably a Brahmin who knew the Veda very well, and who still had some knowledge of the Indus script. The same parable, taken from a late Buddhist text, tells the story of a Buddha visiting Savatthi. There, Brahmins and monks were quarreling with each other about what was the wrong and what was the right doctrine. Then the Buddha told the tale of a king who gave order to someone to collect all the people in the town who were blind by birth. After they had been brought, the king said, "Show them an elephant." To some of them the man indicated the head, to some the ear, to some the tusk, to some the trunk, etc. And each time he added, "The elephant is like this." Then the king asked the blind that had touched the elephant how the elephant was like. Those who had touched the head said it was like a water pot. Those who had touched the ear said it was like a winnowing basket. Those who had touched the tusk said it was like a peg, and so on. Therefore the blind men started to hit each other and cried, "The elephant is like this, the elephant is not like this." Then the Buddha said that quarreling about doctrine was the same thing, as each doctrine was like touching only a part of the elephant. The signs on the broken unicorn seal are those here. In the actual seal, instead of an elephant, we have a unicorn. The first cup sign represents the water pot, the head. The two field signs are equal to the winnowing basket, the ear. The triangle sign, the plough, the trunk. The step sign, the handle of the plough. The stroke sign, the covering, the belly. The blind only touch the skin of the belly. The first man sign, the pillar, the leg, on account of the stroke or phallus between the legs. The second cup sign, the mortar, the back. The hornman sign, the pestle, the tail. The teeth sign, the broom, the tuft of the tail. Apparently, the meaning of these individual signs changes according to interpretation and how they place. This first sign can also be read as a woman, a container, in other seals. The meaning, therefore, is far from certain. Before I go any further, I must say that I do agree with what Balzac called the vulgar taste of comparison, and I am aware of the dangers of trying to make comparisons between ancient marks and images across the planet with no scientific data. Maybe, in terms of science, it would be impossible to couple a giraffe and a whale, but via image making it is perfectly viable. Cézanne and later on Picasso made a visual journey via the geometry of nature as a means of bringing wider space to the picture plane. I invite you to be vulgar with me and see what we find out at the end of this lecture. Now back to the scripts. There is a Vedic verse which could very well be related to the Markho seal from the Indus Valley. The first sign, as we have seen, is often read as a vat or a vessel. The second could represent a flow of fluid. The Markho is a goat with spiral horns that lives until today in the western Himalayas. Here the animal has a human face, perhaps to represent a god. The animal is also called Avika. Avi means wall. In the Vedic verse, a young girl is talking to the seer Kashivad, who is the author of the hymn. He obtained the girl together with horses and cows as payment from an Ashur king after having carried out a big sacrifice for him. Apparently it was common to receive women, cattle and a maiden as payment for services. The line of the verse reads like this: "Come near and embrace me closely. Do not believe that I have few hairs. I am full of hairs, like a sheep of the Gandharis." The girl mentions her pubic hairs because it was forbidden in ancient India to have sexual intercourse with a girl whose pubic hairs were not yet grown. The sheep of Gandharis was another name for the Markho beast. The seer in question was 100-year-old, according to the text. Regrettably, his reaction to her love declaration has not been recorded, but apparently we can deduce from the accounts of another seer called Agastya that the old man lived together with her henceforth. The erotic frankness of the verse is not surprising in the Veda, where sexual allusions are frequent. Fluid or sab is often mentioned in Vedic verses, and it has all sorts of meanings relative to sex, conception, birth, and life. The two signs could also be read as hair of the pudenta, as mentioned in the text. The first sign would signify embrace me closely. It is also possible to read the inscription making references to soma, the elixir made of magic mushrooms like the one in the picture, and used in ceremonies. A line from another Veda reads, "Mix with water, purified soma, your sab flows over the wall of the sheep in the vat." The meaning is as sensual as the other verse. Only the personal relation is missing here. Let's remember that one same sign has a different meaning depending how it is placed, hence the difficulty of decipherment. Same applies to Vedic verses, as depending how they were recited, they would have a meaning or another, and from them different schools of thought were created. This great bath here, 12.7 meters square by 2.4 meters deep, it is in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, an open-air bath used by men and women. The two statuettes here portray two women standing free and open, and far from submissive, a very different pose from the three Venuses we have seen earlier. Now from the Rongorongo script, and carved on a breast ornament called Reid Miro II, I have chosen a few lines, deciphered by scholars, as follows. The man with the feather stick, the Timo, comes to the sacrificial ground. He grasps the vulva of the cool girl. He goes to the cool girl, the girl whose vulva is small, when she sleeps. He gets the fish. After vulva let itself grasp on the rock. After the vulva let itself inspect. After the good thing the vulva let itself grasp, the vulva on the rock. If the vulva is small, they incise the sign of the fish and of the vulva on the rock. The girl's vulva is the navel of the earth, the girl's vulva on the hill, the girl's vulva. For the girls, the initiation ritual started with the examination of their vulva. For this purpose, they went up to the hill of Orongo, climbed on a rock there, and presented it to the two Rongorongo men, who ascertained whether it was small, in other words, where the girls were still virgins. When the vulva was found to be small, its sign was carved on the rock on which the girl was standing. The virgin possessed great power, called mana in the Easter Island society. It is written in the tablets and confirmed by the oral tradition that in Samoa a stick was used to deflorate girls in a public place. The defloration was carried out by the Timo or another old man in privacy. The defloration of the girls had its counterpart in the circumcision of the boys. Together with the ceremony of initiation, a great feast was celebrated, in which the warriors participated too. At this opportunity, kava was drunk, the soma of the Polynesians. Without forgetting Balzac's definition, I will now show you a Paleolithic painting in North Spain in a cave called Tito Bustillo. Experts already agree that these images could be vulvas or vaginas. Perhaps the same ritual also existed in the northern peninsula. We do not know. So far we have seen ancient forms and images that still exist today. Sound is a different matter. We have no idea what were the sounds used for communication in the ancient past. I have chosen 12 basic words, and I have recorded them in 7 languages: Arabic, Urdu, Persian, Basque, Chinese, Greek, and Hebrew. You will guess the words by looking at the images. Arul's Zamin, Zamin, Lur, Ticho, Ji, Adama, Reich, Haba, Haba, Aire, Conchi, Aire, Avil, Ma, Pani, Ob, Or, sway, nero, mai, nar, ag, otesh, su, quo, fotia, ish, azrak, nila, abi, urdin, lan, galatio, kahol, asfar, pila, zar, ori, Juan, kitrino, saho, akhbar, subs, verde, lui, prasino, yagok, ahmar, surg, germes, gorri, kho, kokino, adom, hib, mohabbat, esh, maitasun, I, agapi, ahava, karahia, nafrat, tanafo, goroto, han, nisos, sin'a, Hashems, Suraj, Koshi, Eguskia, Tayang, Oilios, Shemesh, Alkama, Chan, Ma, Ilaria, Urea, Tofegari, Yaber. If we compare the signs of the two ancient scripts that we have seen, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to free our response to them from our history, knowledge, and present-day society needs. Perhaps a sign we have that has remained unchanged from the origins of mankind representing our genitals is this one. This to represent the vulva, and this one to represent the phallus. Even science has made signs from them. Here we have some examples. Our own alphabet could be said to have derived from those simple images. Of course, there are many ways of seeing, but the choice is ours. We have seen the littleness in size, as well as the simplicity of the curves in the Venuses. We have also seen the geometry of the unknown signs in the Spanish caves. Also the basic signs of the undeciphered scripts with a few references from interpretations. Whoever drew or carved them wanted to say something in an extremely economical and precise way. Great art, even nowadays, has kept the same principle. To finish, I'd like to show you a painting that was hidden for years when it was painted. The artist is Gustave Courbet, a French 19th century painter. It is called The Origin of the World and dates from 1866. Next to it I have placed a map of the river Euphrates and Tigris in Iraq. Observe the shape. And in this graphic we can see a sign from the undeciphered Indus script compared to 4 signs from deciphered scripts. I will now leave you with these 3 images, as well as with the 7 words for love and hate. And in the strength of this, I will ask you to try to produce a sign for love and one for hate, using those 2 simple forms that date, perhaps, from the beginning of human consciousness. Hub, Mohabbat, Aish, Maitasun, I, Agapi, Ahava, Karahia, Nafrat, Tanafo, Gorroto. Hun. Nissos sin A. Moltes gràcies.